19% of AEW viewers tuned out after CM Punk's firing announcement. We've got the latest on Jack Perry's AEW suspension, and we've got an update on WWE and UFC's merger. Stay tuned for the news. Another news video kicking off with some more CM Punk and AEW related drama, shall we say. It's been a lot of CM Punk stuff recently, and we're not quite sick of it yet. All Elite Wrestling had quite a tough weekend for the ratings, specifically on Collision. All Out was a fantastic show.
It was.
Collision hit a little stumbling block with some ratings. This was the first episode, of course, without CM Punk. The announcement of his firing, in fact, took place right at the start of the show. It took place even before the show started on social media. The first episode without CM Punk only averaged about 345,000 viewers on TNT in the United States, which is down 37.5% on the previous week.
Wow.
The show drew a 0.11 rating in the 18 to 49 demo. This was down 31.3% from the prior week, with both total viewership and the 18 to 49 demos being record lows for Collision since the show premiered in June. It peaked quite early. The opening quarter hour averaging only 472,000 viewers with a 0.18 rating in the demo. And the opening 15 minutes featured Tony Khan's announcement, which we said there, and Bryan Danielson being revealed as Ricky Stark's opponent. I guess many people assumed it was going to be CM Punk. But following that, how many people stopped watching? What was the percentage?
19% of viewers stopped watching the show at that point.
Yes, which is quite brutal.
It is quite brutal. I would have thought, to be honest, that the intrigue there of what maybe would happen without CM Punk there would occur. I would have thought maybe this would have drawn a few more people to it. I guess though, Chicago, being in Chicago, CM Punk no longer being with the company, I can see why maybe a lot of people, I think as well, obviously CM Punk was the reason why a lot of people perhaps came back to wrestling in the first place too.
I think that's very, very fair, and especially with Collision being an extra 2 hours of AEW programming, you would assume that a lot of the driving force, a lot of the viewership was there to see CM Punk. It was his show. It was like, what's going to happen? Him not being there, it being announced at the start of the show, maybe did cause a lot of people to go, well, this feels not worth watching tonight, especially when you had a lot of competition. You had NFL, you had Payback was on at the exact same time, so WWE competing. So we have to sort of take it with a pinch of salt in the sense of 19% of people stopped watching, but there was a lot of competition. The numbers are still quite low for AEW Collision, and it'll be interesting to see what the impact of not having CM Punk does going forward. In the coming weeks, he's no longer there. Will you be watching Collision every week without him?
Do you know what? I think Collision's still a very good show. It does feel different to Dynamite, and I like that a lot. And I think now, you got your Jay Whites on there. I think they're just standout performers on Collision, and I think they're enough reason to still keep watching and seeing where those storylines and stuff develop and where they go to as well.
I think that's absolutely spot on. There's so many talents on there. CM Punk wasn't the only draw on the show, but staying with CM Punk just now, we've got an update on from the Wrestling Observer Radio. Dave Meltzer speaking on there, saying that with CM Punk potentially joining WWE comes down to a decision from Paul Levesque, Triple H, or Nick Khan. It really comes down to them. He said, I don't know what they're going to do. If you listen to what people say, they don't want him back, but that doesn't mean that they don't want him back. Okay? It's some tricky wording there.
It's like Dave Mumbo Jumbo.
It's the classic Dave, but essentially saying they're saying they don't want him back, but it doesn't mean that they don't want him back.
Yeah, I guess in terms of they don't want him back, maybe perhaps for morality in the locker room. However, I mean, they would probably want him back for the money, right?
Money talks, right? And then he goes on to say that just means he didn't leave on the best of terms and people don't like it and all that. But there's still a chance, as Andrew says there, to make money with them. At the end of the day, it's going to be what those two guys think, referring to Triple H and Nick Khan. There's probably a lot of money on the table. We know that he still has a good relationship from his time with UFC, and as we'll go on to speak later on, there's a merger coming up, and some people are going to be in power.
There's a merger, and then also, obviously, we've spoken about it before as well this week, when Punk was off with injury and suspension and everything. We saw him turn up. There was reports and sightings of him at WWE Raw, trying to squash the beef with Triple H and The Miz and people like that. So, I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all.
You mentioned suspension there, and we're going to talk a little bit about another suspension from AEW just now, because speaking on the hump, Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp reported that Jack Perry is taking a financial hit from his suspension. He said, I think there's going to be a significant amount of money missed out from him because it's either without pay or with a fine. I just know he's taking a financial hit, is what Sean Ross Sapp said. Of course, Jack Perry also being suspended following All In. CM Punk wasn't the only one in that situation. Tony Khan saying on the All Out press conference he's been suspended indefinitely. We suspended everybody in that investigation and took further action after that based on what happened and came out of the investigation. How do we think Jack Perry's going to feature on TV following his return when it does happen? Obviously, a financial hit's a big thing for him. He's an up-and-coming star.
That's a great shout, and sort of me and Adam in the other office have been talking about this throughout the week. Like, what happens? Does he come back and he's just even more heat as a heel, or is he come back and praised by the locker room for what's occurred and how it's all played out? I'm not really sure. I've not actually been disliking Jack Perry's run as a heel. I've actually found it quite entertaining, and I think maybe with perhaps something like this, maybe they're not allowed to reference it directly on television. I'm sure there's legalities and stuff like that, but if they can somehow play into it without directly referencing what's happened, I think that'd be something really, really good for his character to cling on to.
It's kind of that lightning in the bottle situation. They need to sort of do it in a way that doesn't cause any more drama.
Yes, of course.
Backstage, it needs to be all above board and cleared, which is something that I've seen a lot of people criticizing online, being like, oh, he went into business for himself on All In. That spot with the car, that was approved.
Yes.
Like that, he didn't just rent a car and drove it into the stadium. That was all approved. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes forward. I also agree, I quite like his heel run. I just think he needs better music.
Yes,
I suggested Justin Timberlake's Cry Me a River.
Imagine if he actually comes back with that now.
Glass shatters like Stone Cold. Cry me a river. You know, that would be, it'd be perfect, but it's not going to happen. Tony's got the money. We know that. He's paid for the final countdown.
Yeah, he's got more money to spend now. So
Cry Me a River could be on the cards for Jungle Boy, the former Jungle Boy. Who knows? We'll keep an eye on that one, though, going forward with his suspension. But staying with AEW just a minute, who could be making a return, Andrew?
It could be Thunder Rosa. Now, Rosa's obviously been back on the road with AEW for several months as part of their Spanish language broadcast team, but updates on a potential in-ring return have been vague at best. A new update from Fightful Select suggests that Thunder Rosa could return to in-ring competition at almost any time, with it suggested that creative plans would need to be in place before any return materialized.
It's a shame that she's missed so much in ring. She seems to have been, I don't want to say forgotten about, but that the women's division has moved on from what she was doing. But and her being out of action is really kind of, I think, possibly derailed her place. I think she'll come back in a good position. She'll come back and be pushed to the top of that division. But right now, you've got, since her injury, you've got the returns of Saraya being in the ring and her rise to the top of the division. Toni Storm killing it. You've got Chris Statlander back. Yeah. Maybe Jade Cargill when she returns. There's so many people.
That's a difficult one, isn't it?
Overshoot her in that. But hopefully they do push her.
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, obviously, you know, they've got the storyline if they want to run with it, if she never lost the belt in the first place because of the injury and stuff, and she had to vacate it. So therefore, like, yeah, I think there's something there for her to do. But at the same time, you don't want to just shoehorn it in when there's so many other people sort of growing as well and coming up and, you know, being quite prominent in the main women's roster title picture and stuff.
I think you mentioned it there with her never losing the belt. Toni Storm is on fire right now with this character. It's the perfect character. Maybe have her get the belt and you get a little feud between them. But I worry that they'd maybe want to bring back Thunder Rosa as a face, and Toni will get cheered over her because people just love Toni Storm right now. She's
incredible. She's absolutely killing it right now with the character.
She's one of the absolute best things. But we're very excited to see Thunder Rosa back in the ring whenever that does happen. But we're going to end just now on the big update on the UFC and WWE merger. This has been going on since April of this year, the night after or the day after WrestleMania. It was announced that WWE and UFC would be merging into a company under Endeavor. It was announced just today in a press release that will be completed on Tuesday, September 12th. So this coming Tuesday, they will be merging under a company under the banner TKO, which will be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So that will be the merger done. WWE and UFC will be one. They'll be one company.
Be one. Wow.
It's insane that I never thought in my life we'd see WWE get. Well, I say in my life, realistically, that WWE would no longer be under the control of the McMahons.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's wild.
I mean, just all that sort of period of time where things happened and Vince obviously stepping down and the lawsuits and everything came into effect. Like, all of that just felt... It's been a crazy time, it feels like, for WWE. A lot of change in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it remains to be seen what sort of comes of this whole merger, if anything will change necessarily or not.
That's the worrying thing, is any potential changes. Obviously, we know that Ari Emanuel's going to be the CEO of TKO Group, while Vince McMahon will be the executive chairman. Nick Khan will become WWE president, which is a slight change from his current WWE CEO role. But it is all those behind the scenes changes, the executive positions, the managerial positions. How will this affect going forward? Because they're going to become one big company where you're going to have a lot of duplicate staff. And we know that we've seen from reports previously, a lot of people are worried for office cuts. But keep an eye on Cultaholic.com for all the latest news on the WWE and UFC merger. We'll have all lots of news on there, so keep an eye on that one. Anything you'd like to plug, Andrew?
I've got nothing to plug other than, are you streaming this weekend?
I'm streaming. Check me out Friday night, tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Check him out on Mondays on Cultaholic, twitch.tv/Cultaholic. I got it in the end.
We'll get there.
Check out all the other great content on the channel, and we will see you soon.